My name is Rochelle Beardsley, and thank you very much, Debbie, for that warm welcome. I'm a supervisor in the DA's office. I've been a prosecutor for the last 20. Ooh, Chris, cut that out of there. Cut that out of there. For the last 20 years, and I've progressed through a bunch of different units in the office: the gang unit, did homicide cases, child abuse cases, and my current assignment is called. It's a new unit. It's community and media relations. My DA, my boss, thinks since she was sworn in back in 2015, one of her big focus, I would say, is getting us out there in the community. You don't know how many, Chris and we attend a variety of community meetings, community events, and there are people, just regular civilians, you know, nice enough people. They walk up to me and we have a table and we have information about our office. And I'm like, so you're a prosecutor? I'm like, yeah, yes, ma'am, I'm a prosecutor. And then we get to talking. We talk about our free programs like this one. I usually give it at schools or for different parent groups. And I have to tell you something, young lady. Oh, okay. When I walked up here, when I learned you were a prosecutor, I thought you were kind of like Satan. I'm like, oh, well, isn't that nice? But they have. I don't know if it's a problem with the media, if it's a problem with whatever it is. You know, people just get. I think sometimes folks that don't. Louder?
No.
Oh, thank you very much. But folks out there, they have what I would consider to be the wrong impression of my office, what we do. It's not so much throwing people in jail for the rest of their life, or we're just seeking a conviction. Our office is based on seeking justice and serving our community. Anne Marie is a big proponent of prevention, and intervention through education. And that's one of the reasons why I exist, or my unit exists, and a large part why I do these presentations and why she wants me out here doing this. So thank you very much for allowing me to come here and do this. What I want to do is I want to get started with the program. I don't know how much Debbie told you guys about what this is, but it's a social media presentation. I'm here to basically discuss the dangers associated with social media. I'll take a survey later, but for now, let's hear a nice message from my boss.
We are living in a digital age that affects every aspect of our everyday lives. The internet has opened up and expanded our physical world to the virtual world. This has presented unique challenges, dangers, and threats, particularly as it relates to our children, at home, at school, and in their everyday lives. Over the last several years, the District Attorney's Office has seen an explosion of cases involving the internet. They range from such things as child abuse, gang activity, human trafficking, and even murder cases. Kids are not just victims of crime through the use of the internet, but we're also seeing children becoming offenders through the use of the internet and entering the juvenile justice system as a result of using things that are associated with social media.
It's a whole new world out there in the schools. It used to be that bullying was out in the open. Kids picked on each other in the playground, had fights, but now there's cyberbullying. Kids are hiding on the internet, tormenting and victimizing other kids. So what do we need to do about this? Number one, we've got to educate parents. Number two, we've got to get parents to talk to their kids about this issue. They need to share the dangers of cyberbullying. The attacks on children have been devastating, leading some even to suicide. We've got to encourage parents and their kids to report incidents of cyberbullying to law enforcement. This is all of our problem. Our whole community needs to pull together to let cyberbullies know we're not going to let them keep hiding on the internet and victimizing our kids.
So I don't know about you nice people, but I didn't grow up in an era where social media was as pervasive as it is today. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes as a mother that I've made is given my son a cell phone, you know, a smartphone. I should have just gotten a flip phone, but that's beside the point. Anyways, I give a corresponding program to children as well. I usually give this program to like anywhere from 6th to like 9th graders. What I'm going to be doing for you today is talking about what the dangers are that we see. During the program that I give to the young kids, we cover about 5 subjects, and they're up there on the board here. In addition to talking just briefly about those topics, I want to talk about what the impact is on our kids, okay? And what warning signs we can be vigilant about, looking out for, okay? And I also want to talk about a little bit about parent strategies. Sound good, guys? Yeah. All right. Okay, confession time. How many of us have kids, grandkids who have cell phones and use social media? Oh man, we're almost all guilty. It's okay, guys. You're with friends. Like I said, my son, this is a horrible confession on my part, but I gave my son, I'm a DA, and I gave my son a cell phone when he was, I would say in 7th grade, maybe. I know, I'm bad. And one of the first things he started doing was he started trying to get on social media, right? And I mean, that sounds kind of silly because I teach this stuff, right? But it's a reality, unfortunately, but it is dangerous, and we need to figure out tools and things we need to learn in order to combat it. Those of us who have youngsters that use social media, do we know what social media apps they're using? Shout them out.
Facebook,
Instagram.
Instagram,
Okay.
Snapchat.
Yeah, Instagram and Snapchat, the devil, okay? Facebook, surprisingly, when I bring it up to the middle school kids and even the high school kids, they laugh at me. They're like, oh my God, that's like MySpace or something. I'm like, oh, okay. But Snapchat, right? Snapchat is terrible because it's, for those of us that aren't familiar with it, Snapchat is, they take pictures of themselves and then they send them, and there's like all these different fun backgrounds, and they can direct message each other too. You know, there's like a back screen for that. Instagram, same thing. You know, they post these photos of themselves and, oh Mom, I only share my picture with my friends, people who I accepted and people who I allowed to follow me. I was like, really? What about those people's friends? What if you put something inappropriately on there? When I give this presentation to the students, I ask them, like, hey, those of us on Instagram, how many followers do you have? And some kids, you wouldn't believe this, some kids have like 1,500, 2,000 followers, you know? And they're proud, and I'm like, oh, good for you, wow, you're so popular. So do you know all those people? Are those all your personal friends? So if I was your Instagram follower, and I made up a fake name and stuff, and I was really a stalker, would you know who I was if I sat beside you on the bus? If I walked behind you at the shopping mall? Because I was figuring out when I can make my move on you? And they're like, oh, we don't even know. But they don't get it, right? They don't get it. What else do we got? Yik Yak, that's not really that popular. Tinder, it's a dating app. Line, this is mostly it's going to be Instagram, Snapchat, and Kik. Okay, yeah.
I heard that one.
Here's a little story about Kik.
Investigators have released new details of the shocking murder of a 13-year-old girl in Virginia. Charged in the case are a pair of teenage students from Virginia Tech, and there is much concern over what role social media may have had in the crime. NBC's Janet Shanley explains.
The grief-stricken mother of Nicole Madison Lovell, living the unimaginable.
Nicole touched many people throughout her short life.
Authorities tonight say the 13-year-old was stabbed to death, and the connection to 2 promising college freshmen from Virginia Tech charged in her murder may be social media. The 7th grader was active on Twitter and a Facebook forum called Teen Dating and Flirting. The night she disappeared, Nicole reportedly showed a friend texts from an 18-year-old man she said she was planning to meet. They came on a messaging app called Kik, which authorities say has been used by sexual predators.
We will not let this violence define us.
Police say 18-year-old David Eisenhower, a track star and engineering student, kidnapped and murdered Nicole. 19-year-old Natalie Keepers was originally charged with helping him get rid of the body. Authorities now say she was involved before Nicole died.
Natalie Keepers will be charged today with being an accessory before the fact to the first-degree murder of Nicole Lovell.
The 7th grader went missing last week after climbing out of her bedroom window. Her body found 80 miles away in North Carolina.
These two individuals took my daughter from this planet, and I want to know why. I want all the information I can get.
A family, a community without answers, shaken to its core. Janet Shamlian, NBC News.
So there's one story. I mean, and really I could show you dozens of clips based on social media and bad things happening to our young folks here. I want to talk to you a little bit about some hidden apps. I don't know if you are aware of this one. I found this on my son's phone, scary enough. But it looks like the calculator, for those of us that have an iPhone, it looks just like the calculator app, but when you open it, when you click on it, you don't get the calculator. It's just a storage device. It's like a facade, and they store their inappropriate pictures of themselves or other kids behind there. But you can store data files like videos and pictures behind that. You know. I know. I'm just here to give all the bad news here. So I want to do an instant messaging quiz with our friends. Okay. Some of these, so these are like just little codes, little messages that I've seen back and forth through phones here. Let's talk terms, okay? Whatever's inappropriate, if it's inappropriate, don't post it, don't share it, okay? It should be on your phone in the first place, right? But when we're talking about inappropriate contact, what are we talking about, right? Talking about threats of violence, offensive language, underage drinking, hate speech. Remind your kids, once it's out there, it's gonna stay. There's a thing called the digital tattoo, and this is something I talk about too when I talk to the students. And I ask them, oh, okay, so if you've got a friend who says, hey, send it to me via Snapchat, because you know the Snapchat messages, when the kids send them to each other, they only last like, I don't know, 16 seconds or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's why everyone thinks, well, Mom, it's gonna be gone in 15 seconds. Well,
Not after I screenshot it.
boom,
Screenshot
there you
it,
go,
yeah.
snapshot, screenshot. Snapchat's one of the apps that will tell you when someone's taking a screenshot, but is it too late? I mean, what can we do at that point? Right?
Can you delete that?
You've done already.
Yeah, and then, I mean, basically when you're using social media, and this is what I keep hammering back to the kids, is like, listen, when you put something on social media, I don't care if it's Snapchat, a direct message on Instagram, a direct message on that old app, Facebook, that I love and use, right? It's forever. It's forever.
Well, and if someone takes it and then morphs it or does something, it could be innocent when it went there.
It
but
could be.
Somebody is going to turn it into something else.
Right. I mean, why would you allow someone or your future to be in somebody else's hands, right? So we talk about the digital tattoo, the fact that it's just, there's no such thing as private when it comes to social media. Another thing that we stress to parents and students is that not only will it affect you now, it'll affect you in the future. I can give you a couple examples about that. There's a reputationmanagement.com indicates there's an increasing number of colleges that will proactively vet applicants through Google, through social media. And they're looking at it when they're determining who to give academic scholarships to, sports related scholarships. My office, we monitor social media. Obviously, it's a big deal when we're vetting applicants, right? And I asked the students, I'm like, who do you think is going to get a job? Somebody with a squeaky clean social media record, or somebody who's got inappropriate memes on their social media accounts, right? If they're out there, I mean, people are going to find it. You know, and then sometimes too, like, even if it's an innocent picture, you know, it can be, you just never know what someone with a nefarious intent could do with it. But even if it's like, you know, a young kid saying something really dumb, right, on social media, have we seen examples in the news about how that's come back to bite them? Of course we have. Harvard, this was a story that came out in was it 2017. Harvard actually revoked about 10 offers they made to students, offers of admission to Harvard. And they revoked these offers because of some inappropriate memes that the students were sharing on their private messaging. You know how Facebook has that messenger app, right? Those are allegedly private, right? Well, Harvard found them, and it was like a group of 10, and they were sharing these back and forth, and they found them and they rescinded their offers. So when I do this presentation at schools, I share that with the kids too. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with, this is Laramie Tunsil. Who does he play for now?
He plays for the Cowboys, I believe.
Okay. But he was supposed to go first round NFL draft, and then I think the story is...
His agent, a spurned former agent of his, shared this video.
Yep. Then, so he ends up getting picked 13th overall, and I guess the ESPN estimate was that he lost about $16 million.
Oops.
Chump change to them, I guess, but you know, I sure like that. So, what can we do as parents to help our friends, our young friends, right? There's a good resource. It's this is the website here. It's called WebWise IE. I don't know if you guys want to take a picture of this too, but it'll walk you through how to access the settings and restrictions on all devices, just on your computers. Because is there anything different, folks, between using the computer for social media or using a cell phone for social media? Is there? Everyone's shaking their head. No? Yeah, there's no difference.
Using a phone, like they're more intimate with their phone, where a computer sometimes can be put out in the living room or dining room area.
Right, but when you're using social media on your phone versus, versus on your computer.
It's right there.
Same, right? Same. But this will walk you through, and I have an iPhone, but you know, some of us have the Samsungs, but it also shows you how to do it through the tablets, your smartphones, and on your internet browser. So it's a pretty good. If I can do it using it, everyone can. But one rule of thumb, though, however, is that if we do have our kids that are allowed to use social media, make sure that they don't activate their location services when those particular apps run. You can turn those off too. The iPhone I'm pretty decent with, but I can get around there. But this will help you do that. But just as a general rule of thumb, don't share your location. Don't turn those services on, and never check in a place.
Well, my son likes to do that with his daughter because then he can tell where she is.
But I'm talking about like, you know, on Facebook, you can check in. Like all these restaurants say, oh, we'll give you 5% off if you check in. But you know, yeah, people know where you are. Like some people want to. These sound like silly examples, but they're real. Like, oh, I love walking my dog at this park on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock. It's like, what are you doing? Or the people who go on vacation.
Yeah.
Just landed in Oahu. I can't believe I'm gonna be in paradise for the next 2 weeks. It's like, hey, hope you don't know anybody that wants to burglarize your home, because they know exactly where you're not gonna be for the next 2 weeks. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the topics that we cover, and I want to talk to you folks too about why we do it and what to look out for. Okay, so we talk about cyberbullying, right? And just some quick examples of cyberbullying: sending mean text messages. This is just any kind of bullying that's done using your cell phone or your computer. Photoshopping pictures, what we were talking about earlier. Making fake profiles, posting fight videos, using your cell phone to spread rumors and gossip, or posting embarrassing pictures or sending threats.
Is there a law against that, or is that just one of
So,
those?
yeah, so we don't have a penal code that prohibits bullying, bullying. We have penal codes that prohibit threats, but there's all these requirements that I have to prove beyond reasonable doubt before I can even file it, right? There are penal code sections that deal with inciting violence, inciting riots, disturbing the peace kind of things. But you know, when we're talking about, cyberbullying, the worst case scenario will lead to some youngster taking his or her life, unfortunately. And that's the reason why we add that here. You may have seen in the news stories of, you know, where an ex-girlfriend or a girlfriend has kind of incited or provoked her now deceased ex-boyfriend to commit suicide. And that woman was charged, not for murder though. But there are instances like that, but it's so very specific, you know, and the cases that are prosecuted are generally ones where we have a trail, like there's text messages back and forth, do it, get in your car, you know, where it's really, really obvious, right? Because if not, it's like the whole intent thing, and you know, it makes it difficult for us to be able to go forward, because we have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So one of the big reasons why we've included cyberbullying is just the rate of suicide for kids that have experienced this kind of attack. Suicide ideation and attempts among adolescents have basically doubled since 2008. There's studies posted by the Centers for Disease Control, there's one in 2015, that reported that suicide was the second leading cause of death in the U.S. among individuals in the age 10 to 17. It's worse, I have a son, it's worse for boys. That number, young males are most likely to commit suicide than females. I don't know if it's a communication thing, you know, I don't like to generalize, but like mine, I have to do a little cross-examination every time I want to get any kind of information out of him. He's not very good at sharing what's in the mind there. In 2017, the Pediatric Academic Society reported that the number of children admitted to hospitals for attempted suicide or expressing suicidal thoughts doubled between 2008 and 2015. And much of the rise is obviously linked to the cyberbullying, because it's done behind closed doors. No one really knows sometimes when it's going on until it's too late. But what can we do to understand this better and identify this? So when you have instances of cyberbullying, there are basically three major groups of actors. Okay, you've got the cyberbully, the person who's doing the bullying online. You've got the victim, and then you've got the bystander. Okay, so the cyberbully, we can guess who that is, right? Anyone who instigates it, or someone who joins in and starts being proactive with it. We know who the victim is. Do you know who the bystander would be? An example of a bystander?
Someone that knows about it but doesn't participate in it or tell anybody about it.
Just kind of stand by and do nothing, right? And when it's when it occurs on school grounds, I mean, when it's cyberbullying and when it affects students, a lot of people know about it. It's not just the two of them, you know, because they're sharing it on social media, they're sharing it on Twitter or Insta, you know. I mean, it's a big deal. Like when I was young, fights at school, like, oh, fight, and everybody would run to the quad. It's the same kind of thing, but it's how fast can you spread something using social media or Facebook or Twitter? Yeah. So that's why there are a lot of bystanders.
Do they generally know the person who's doing it, the person that's being bullied, or are they doing it like
Not all the time.
anonymously?
Not all the time, though. I mean, they see somebody being bullied, like hashtag trash boy or whatever, you know, then they retweet it or something. But what are you doing? You're bullying, right? But they don't even know the people. And I ask the students when I give this presentation, I'm like, why do you think that there's so many people who would chime in on this person if they don't even know them? And they're like, well, because they're doing it from behind a computer screen and they don't have to be personal with it. And we talk about the difference between, you know, hiding behind, like a troll behind, they call them trolls, right? Behind a computer screen and being upfront personal, you know? When you're talking to somebody face to face, you're not going to behave the same way you're going to behave when you're hiding behind a computer screen. So these are generally the three different categories that we see. And some kids can fall into two, you know, at the same time, right? Cyberbully or bystander, that transition can be made rather quickly. One of the example that we use is we have real stories that we tell based on real life cases and real life incidents, but we just change the actors so that, you know, we're not naming anybody. So this is the cyberbullying scenario that we use. We talk about a student who's being bullied at lunchtime. Some of the kids dump garbage on him, and one student takes the picture and then they start tweeting it and sharing it on Facebook, and they call him Trash Boy. And the victim's name is Mark, and Mark, although his mom sees a change in his behavior, she doesn't really know what's going on, and before she is able to really figure out what's going on, it ends really badly. Mark is bullied incessantly at school and on social media, and in this scenario, he ends up taking his own life. So, so a couple of things that we can look at, okay, that we can see. I'd say look for changes. We know our kids, right? Even mine that doesn't talk very much, right? We know our kids. We know how much they laugh. We know how to tell when they're in a good mood, right? So a couple of things to look at, okay? If your child or loved one is being cyberbullied, they may stop using their computer or their cell phone. That's a big deal for kids, the high school kids or teenage kids. They may begin to act nervous when receiving an email, an instant message or a text. They may seem a little uneasy about going to school. Withdraw from friends and family. Okay? If you see any of these signs, I would encourage you to I mean, obviously not ignore them, but start that means we need to talk. We need to start a dialogue, okay? Because those are, and we know our loved ones, right? We know if there's going to be a shift or a change in the behavior. Studies are, again, more bad news, okay? 50 to 75% of children, they don't tell school personnel, but they're likely to tell their parents. And there's all these rap songs and all this negative messaging about tattling, or they call it snitching. Snitches get stitches, you know, that kind of thing. But sometimes they don't necessarily trust school personnel, but they are more likely to tell their parents. When I give this presentation to the students, one of the things that I ask them, and I make sure that they all answer, is do you have a trusted adult? Like if something like this was happening to you, do you have somebody that you have in mind right now? Tell me, an adult, somebody you can talk to. Because that's huge, right? Just having somebody to do that with. would make all the difference in the world. Okay, so let's look at cyberbullying behaviors, all right? These are things that I would look at and pay close attention to if you see these kinds of behaviors going on. Quickly switching screens or closing programs, right? You roll up, POR, whoop, there it goes, shutting down the app. Trying to use the computer at late night, all hours. Gets unusually upset if they can't use the computer. Even laughing excessively while online sounds silly, but we know our kids, right? So if they're laughing excessively while online, tries to avoid discussions about what they're doing, or even this, having more than one account. Like some kids have, and I don't know how he's getting away with this, but one of my kids' friends has 2 different Instagram accounts. I'm like, listen, there's no good reason why a child, because that's what they are, they're children, should have more than one Instagram account. So if you're noticing these behaviors, that again, it's time to talk, right? It's time to have convo. Does anybody have any questions about the cyberbullying and what to look for? Okay. In addition to the cyberbullying, we talk about sexting, and sexting is just sharing inappropriate or sexual photos and messages online. And this is when we have the conversation about when your friend asks you to send a nude picture of yourself, they're not really being a friend to you, right? And kids, they share this stuff because sometimes they're just trying to be funny, trying to make friends with people who they shouldn't be. But if you suspect this going on, which it is a crime, by the way, sharing a 14-year-old sending a nude picture of herself to somebody else. Anybody know what that is? What crime it is? Boom, child pornography. And I tell the kids this too, like that is a felony, and it carries with it sex offender registration, which is lifetime registration. Because anybody what's possession of child pornography? A nude or semi-nude photograph of anybody who's under the age of 18, right? If I text my friend a picture of a 14-year-old that's partially clad, what's that? That's distribution of child pornography, right? I've got this slide up here about indicating steps to take. Facebook has a good policing program. There's site administration, even I think Instagram, they all have them if you report them. But obviously, law enforcement is another route too if you suspect any issues with sexting or sharing. All right, we talk about online stranger. All right. Okay, so big thing. What are we telling our kids never to share? Location. Okay. In addition to that, don't share your passwords, your home address, your home or your cell phone number, even your email. Also, I don't have this on here, but I'd be watching gaming. My son likes gaming too, that PlayStation. On PlayStation they can communicate with other folks. Okay. And those are the instances when we talk about online stranger. I give the scenarios about an older male who basically starts grooming a 14-year-old kid, and they meet online. They're playing Minecraft, which is another popular game with some of the youth today. And again, they can get messages from strangers, and they can communicate with each other. So I tell in our scenario, the adult befriends this 14-year-old and sends him a cell phone, says it's our secret, don't tell your parents. Then he invites him over to go have lunch, and then eventually gets him to his house. This grooming stuff, I used to work SACA, the sex assault child abuse unit. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Like I don't want to scare you or bore you with any of the stories of my cases, but it's the person who you least expect. Sometimes, high school coach, church member, But most of the grooming online, they're occurring through the social networking sites, right? And we talked about those. They occur usually when it's an older teenager, generally. I'm talking about 16. I've given this presentation to the kids about online strangers many times. And I've been approached after my presentation by students who've never made a disclosure before, but they're like, hey, I got a text message I got a message on my Instagram from this dude, and I don't know this dude, but he's an adult. I'm like, okay. And then I reported, to the school resource officer right away. But I've heard that from students enough where I'm like, okay, we need to do a little bit better at communicating with our youth. One of them, that individual had reached out to him. He didn't know it was an adult, and he'd asked him to send him nude pictures of himself, which he didn't do. Thankfully, he did not do. So offenders, they groom children. It's a real thing. They exploit their natural curiosity, right? They offer gifts, like in our scenario. They offer them cell phones, gift cards. I'm going to share with you some signs of grooming. Okay? Receiving gifts. Where'd that come from? Where'd you get those pair of shoes? Where'd you get that Starbucks gift card? Right? How come you've been to Starbucks 3 times this week? Where are you getting the money? I'm not giving you the money. Calling unknown numbers. And if you've got your kid's cell phone, or you monitor the account, you can find out the numbers that they're calling, right? Even if because they can delete them from their phone, but you can always see the numbers that they're calling if you log onto your account online. Sometimes, again, they're withdrawing from family and friends because their groomer is telling them, hey, this is our secret, you're special to me. You don't need to be lonely. Getting upset again when not online, and again, it's just minimizing the screen. Our kids need to just get used to the fact that we're looking. Behave like moms, watching and reading everything, and maybe then you'll be on the appropriate side. But legal consequences, we've talked about a couple of these. Possession and distribution of child pornography. It requires lifetime registration as a sex offender, and potential, obviously, civil liability. So I want to move forward to 10 tips for us parents to focus on protecting our kids from the internet dangers, okay? Okay. So, monitor. Everybody's kids should be on search and seizure probation if they have a cell phone, okay? Monitor the internet activity. Have a curfew for cell phone use, right? They'll try to break that too, but he has to turn his in when he gets home, and then he doesn't get it until he gets it after he's done doing his homework and before dinner. Obviously, communication is a key, right? Open communication. In addition to that, you can create a personal parent password. I know for sure on the iPhone you can do this, because I've done it to my son, but you can limit his ability to download apps on it. There's a thing on the iPhones now, it's called guided assistance. So basically, their smartphones only work to call or receive calls. They can't even text or anything. So and look at that website that I shared with you. That's another good thing to rely on. All right, be aware of the hidden apps, the calculator app that we talked about. It's so scary. I mean, I found that on my kid's phone, right? Provide education regarding the possible consequences. Do you know that Harvard rescinded 10 applications or offers of admittance to 10 kids because of something that they were sharing in their messenger, which everybody thought was private? It's not private. Teaching netiquette, which is just basically online manners, right? Don't say anything inappropriate, don't retweet something, don't bully people online. Encourage your kid to use their privacy settings on social media, and limit their access to their phone if they're not being appropriate. I'm a lawyer, so I like contracts, and I've given, I know, I'm off. I have you can have your child sign a social media contract if you like. I've got more than, I'll leave the copies with Deb, but she can share these with you if you're interested. It goes through things like, I'm not going to give my name, address, telephone number, school name, or parents' names to anyone I meet on the computer. If anyone I meet online sends me anything in the mail or by email, I will let my parents know. I will not keep online secrets to my parents. And you just post, have them sign, have them read it, go and, I mean, my poor kid. He's gonna write a book about me when he grows up. But you know, we just have a combo. Oh, what does that mean? What do I expect from you if when I say this? You know, and then they go through it, and then signature of child, you know, sign, and then signature of parent, and post that in their room. Post that on the next to the computer. Post it wherever you want. But these are for yours. And let me know if you need more. Okay? I'll put these right here. Okay. Oh look, I have a slide. Have your child sign a contract on appropriate internet use. It's like I'm clairvoyant or something. Discuss the scenarios with them. All right. I'm guilty of letting my kid have social media. He's no longer able to do so because of things I've caught him doing. But I would never. This is just social media at an early age. Why? My son's excuse is, oh, that's my social thing. That's how we communicate. I'm like, well, there's a thing called a text message, okay, and which mom can get and read, and it's bad, and it's easily accessible for mom. Also, if they are on social media, you need those passwords and monitor those social network postings. The reason why you need, if they have Instagram or Twitter, the reason why you need their passwords is because that's how you can get into the direct messages. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you just follow them on Instagram, you don't see their direct messages. So you need those passwords. Okay. Okay. I've also had this conversation too. I think it's a helpful one. I mean, you'd be surprised at the things that come out of the house. But tell me about, what would you do for a friend who's getting bullied? What would you do, right? Report it. Encourage him to stand up. He tells me, well, he'd do it. He'd stand up for the victim. Or just, he wouldn't share a post that was bullying another kid. You know, we have those conversations. I try to have them quite regularly. And just, you know, it's all about having a conversation about expectations, right? Okay, how to help. This is the school-based one, but communicate with the school, save any evidence, block those that are being inappropriate or bullying. I put this logo here on the bottom right because I found out about this when I gave this presentation at Galt Middle School. This is a stopsolutions.com is a, bless you, is an actual app that schools can purchase, and students can put it on their smartphones online. Derek Jeter works or has invested in the company, and they've got all these posters and that they can put up in the school. But basically, what it is you know, there's sometimes a stigma attached with kids reporting things to school administrators, right? They don't want to be the snitch. They don't want to be the person who ratted somebody out. This is an anonymous reporting app, and the kids can get on. Put the app on their phone, make the complaint, it goes directly to school administration, and it's anonymous. And so I was talking to some of the folks, some of the teachers and administrators at Galt Middle School, McCaffrey Middle School, and they're like, it's already helped us with a bunch of bad things that were going down, you know, like kids that are being bullied or sending inappropriate pictures, but it's free to the kids. I think they charge the school, you know, but if, you know, I'd be talking to the schools and say, hey, do you have something like this? Do you have you know, most schools have an anti-bullying policy. Sure, that's great. I have a policy against bullying. Great. What am I going to do if I find out it's happening? How am I going to report it? This is one of the solutions, you know, especially if the kids don't have someone that they're like, I don't know if I should tell my mom right now that Sue's being bullied by Joe, I don't know. This is a good way of doing it, and it's proven resourceful for a goal.
So in today's world, how are administrators truly dealing with the bullying?
Well, I have mixed reports from various educational institutions. I mean, everyone's that I've talked to says that they have a proactive approach, right? But my whole thing is, if no one's reporting it to you, how are you able to solve the problems that are occurring, right? So that's why I've been looking for programs like this, or just things that this is just one other tool that will hopefully break through the barrier, right? That is the stigma of telling on someone, right? But that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much. You've been an attentive audience.